Today, I'm going to show you how to make prickly pear syrup. Now, most people think of prickly pears as desert plants, but they're actually native to 48 out of our 50 states. I usually harvest prickly pear fruit in late summer and early fall, and as you can see, it comes in a variety of shades and shapes and sizes. Unfortunately, I'm usually busy during the growing season, so I can't work with it right away. I'll put it in the freezer, and even though it doesn't look quite as pretty when it comes out, it's still plenty juicy. Now, you can juice prickly pear fruit by cutting the fruit open, just barely covering it with water, and cooking it down in a saucepan. Or you could use a steam juicer. A steam juicer is composed of 3 levels of metal containers. The top is a perforated metal container, and you put the fruit in that. The center section catches the juice from the fruit, and the bottom is a pan that you fill with water. As you heat the water, the steam rises up and coaxes the juice out of the fruit, which collects in the center section, and then you let it run out through that hose, that plastic hose, into a vessel to collect your juice. It's a wonderful labor-saving device if you have a lot of fruit to process all at one time. Measure your prickly pear juice and combine it in a heavy-duty saucepan with an equal volume of sugar. Then, over low heat, whisk to dissolve the sugar in the fruit juice. If you want your syrup to be thicker, you can bring this to a low simmer and cook it until it's the thickness you desire if you want to pour it over ice cream or pancakes. But since I like to use my syrup as a base for sorbets or in cocktails, for me it's more useful if I keep it on the thin side. So I just keep stirring until the sugar has completely dissolved. The next step is actually canning my syrup. And the reason I do this is because I want to keep it shelf stable for a long time without having to freeze it or refrigerate it. If you're making a small batch and you want to just keep it in the fridge, that'll be fine for probably 4 to 6 weeks. But I'm going to actually try to do this without making a horrible mess. Use a canning funnel, and I'm going to can, well, we'll see how much I get. I'm going to can my syrup, and then I'm going to process that in a boiling water bath, and I'll be able to have this to enjoy for probably the next 6 to 9 months. Use a canning funnel to transfer your juice into the canning jars. It's going to make it a lot easier and less messy for you. And when you're canning syrup, you want to fill those jars to within 1/2 inch of the rim of the jar. That's called headspace, and syrups should be canned with 1/2 inch of headspace. This is not a video about canning, but I will tell you that when you're canning pints or half pints of syrup, you're going to process them in a boiling water bath for 10 minutes if you're at sea level, for 15 minutes if you're between 1,000 feet and 6,000 feet above sea level, or for 20 minutes if you're above 6,000 feet, and that's where I am these days. And you start the timing on the boiling water bath when the water in the canner has resumed a full boil after you've put the cans in there. When your jars are full, use a damp paper towel to clean off the rims, then put the lids on and add the rings and turn them to keep the lids in place. Now, you just want to turn the rings until they are finger tight. Do not really crank down on them and make them super tight. Just finger tight is fine. And I would suggest that, unlike me, you use 2 hands to do this. Use a jar lifter to place your jars in the boiling water and make sure that the tops of the jars are covered by 2 inches of water. You'll use the same jar lifter to get those jars out of the water and move them over to a dish towel and let them cool. You'll notice that the tops of the lids make popping sounds as they are sucked down into the jar to create a vacuum seal, and that's how you know you've finished processing your syrup. Look at that color. Isn't it wonderful? You can use your prickly pear syrup to make Jell-O, or a more adult dessert like this prickly pear granita. I mentioned earlier that My preferred way of using prickly pear syrup is in a cocktail. So today I'm going to give you my recipe for a prickly caparina, which is made with cachaça, prickly pear syrup, and some lime juice, and I like to serve it over crushed ice. Now, cachaça may not be something you're familiar with. It's made from sugarcane juice, and some people compare it to rum agricole, but I think it has a fresher flavor. It's a little bit lighter, a little less sweet, and I love the way it tastes with prickly pear syrup, which, by the way, and I haven't mentioned this yet, the flavor of prickly pear syrup reminds me of sort of a combination of watermelon and apple. It's fruity, it's naturally sweet, and I think it's really delicious. It is also exceptionally beautiful. Look at that. So I'm going to measure out 1 ounce of prickly pear syrup, and I'm going to add that to the cocktail shaker, to which I've already put 2 ounces of cachaça and 1 ounce of lime juice. Give that a little shake just to chill it down, and then I'm going to pour it over crushed ice. Oh, such a pretty drink. Look at that. And the lime garnish is just there because I think green and pink look really nice together. So I hope you enjoy making your own prickly pear syrup, and however you use it in good health. Cheers.